Hello, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you about the Type tool. By default, when you launch a document in Illustrator, your toolbox will show up on the left hand side. If it doesn't, if you go into Window, you can find your toolbox and turn your toolbox on. There's a variety of ways that you can look at the toolbox by clicking the option arrows in the upper right corner of the toolbox. I usually like to look at mine side by side. Right now in the toolbox, we're going to look at the Type tool, which, like in Photoshop and in InDesign, is the capital T in your type box. By clicking on it, you can draw text in Illustrator. There's two ways that you can do text. If you click and drag a box, it's similar to what you can do in Photoshop and in Illustrator, where you can type text, but it's in what they call a text bounding box. We typically only use this when we're dealing with large amounts of copy, like in a brochure or a newsletter or a magazine article. By default, when you're using Illustrator and graphic design, you're rarely using text boxes. They can be difficult to resize and manipulate the text. When you're using Illustrator, you're going to want to do similarly to what you do in Photoshop, and that's just simply selecting the Type tool and then just clicking onto the pasteboard. Even though there's a bounding box in it, I can scale my text and distort my text a lot easier than I can in a text box. Let me show you the difference. What you just saw me do was manipulate and scale the text, and all I did was, similar to Photoshop, select the text tool and just clicked and started typing. If you use a text box, and you wanted to scale it like you're used to doing, you'll note that when I try to scale it, all it does is adjust the size of the text box. That's why I said earlier that the best way to use text in Illustrator, the way graphic designers commonly use it for, so that they can manipulate text quicker, is by simply clicking the text tool and typing what you want. If I want to change the text, if I highlight, and that I can do that by clicking and dragging or double clicking. If I go to my top menu, I can see my character. This will be whatever font that I've selected for my type. I can also adjust the point sizes of it, either through default, which is up to 72, or I can highlight the numbers and use my arrow keys to increase them one point size at a time. Or I can just punch in the amount that I want. I find that the quickest way to get text to a size that I like is through using the Scale tool. We're going to use the free Transform tool so that I can select my text and I can do a variety of things to it. Let's click off for a second, get my bounding box going, and an even shorter shortcut is if I just hold my arrow over one of the corners and then hold my Shift key, it will allow me to scale the text bigger or smaller. By holding the Shift key, it allows me to do it proportionately. If I don't hold the Shift key down, it will then stretch and distort the text. Most times you're going to find you want to do it proportionately. You can also have access to text through your palettes. It's a little trickier to find these guys though, so you go under Window, Type, Character. This will give me my character palette, and this might be similar to what you've seen in other software, where I can select my text, and instead of having to go up to the top, I can choose right here through my palette. If I click the Options features, I can show more options of what I can do with the text as far as distorting it. Similar to other character palettes, you'll also see in Illustrator's character palette where I have access to the Superscript and Subscript features. And this is how you manipulate and create text in Illustrator.